Is it just me, or does Disney always have the most hyped cartoon theme songs? Some of you all might see that as a bit of a hot take, but I've got an even bigger one for you. A lot of people see Cartoon Network as the only one taking animation seriously these days, but in recent years, Disney has been slowly sneaking up on them. DuckTales alone has become one of the best shows airing on the network, with great callbacks to Disney classics like Darkwing Duck and Powerline. It's hard not to love it.
Above the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud, the mind is the only face that you see. Gotta stand out. You know it's me.
Right now, Disney is starting a new lineup of shows since their recent transition of all their animated stuff over to the Disney Channel from Disney XD. It seems like Disney XD has been relegated to just airing nothing but Kick Buttowski and Phineas and Ferb reruns. Not really sure what they want to do with that channel, but it looks like it's dead at this point. I honestly welcome the change because it kind of harkens back to the old Disney Channel that we knew and loved. Having most of their animated shows only air on Disney XD actually has a negative impact on them. Disney Channel may be more known for their live action stuff, but it's their animated stuff that really boosted them into the position that they're in today. One of the new shows they've recently been pushing lately is Amphibia, which is created by one of the storyboarders from the very popular Gravity Falls. When a show like that is attached to your name, I kind of feel bad for the crazy amount of expectations that come along with it. The guy directed some episodes and storyboarded some scenes, but that doesn't instantly mean that whatever he creates is going to match the quality of Gravity Falls. I really hate when people jump to conclusions like that. It only pressures the person working on the show and can sometimes cause people to blindly hate a show for not delivering on promises that were never made. It's just a minor thing that bugs me that I wish people would really have in their mind before going into stuff. But anyway, let's just talk about Amphibia. So, Amphibia follows this girl named Anne who ends up getting sent to this world inhabited by talking frogs. Of course, since she's a creature unlike anything they've seen before, they see her as a potential threat to their home.
The beast! Stop following me. I have bad news for you, beast. I taste terrible. Ew, I am not gonna eat you.
It's a very simple premise with an easy goal in mind. Anne wants to get back home, and until then she has to stick it out with this family of oddball frogs. With a plot as simple as this, you gotta have good characters, and I'm happy to say that I pretty much like every character in the show, all for different reasons too. Anne, for one, is a bit of an oddball herself, but because of her life back at home and the people she's friends with, she struggles with thinking for herself. Also, in the middle of writing the script, I just found a major discovery. Did any of you realize that Brenda Song is the voice actress for Anne? The entire time I was watching the show, I just kept thinking to myself, who is this voice actress? I've heard this voice before. And little did I know, it was no one other than...
Hi, I'm London Tipton. Duh.
Man, what a callback. Honestly, that just brings back crazy memories. Sorry to get off track, I just had to put that in there. But anyway, Anne's actions throughout the show kind of reflect that behavior I mentioned earlier. She's just so used to acting a certain way that being thrusted into this world has kind of forced her to see the differences in what's right or wrong. It's nice because instead of having her come across as a bad kid, it makes her come across as a good kid with clouded judgment, which most kids are, if we're being honest. They often do wrong, but not because they know it's wrong, just because they don't know any better. It makes our mistakes feel like, well, real mistakes. The problem with this is that the show is so in your face about it. Every episode is very preachy towards the end, and I get that it's supposed to teach you a lesson, but to actually verbally say what the lesson is in every episode is just demeaning.
Sorry I almost got us killed today.
Looks like I'm back to causing trouble for the family again, huh?
Stumpy, I'm sorry about all this. I took things way too far.
Kids, I messed up big.
Sylvia, I have a confession to make. And sorry the engagement had to end like this.
Sprig, I owe you an apology.
You saying you were wrong?
Very wrong.
Super wrong?
Super wrong.
You're always wrong?
I'm always... Hey, not always.
Okay, we get it. What she did was wrong. No need to say it out loud. Like, imagine if you got in trouble, right? Let's say you got bad grades on your report card or something and your mom found out. What would you say to them in that moment? You would say, I'm sorry, won't let it happen again, that sort of thing, right? If it played out like anything in this show, what you would be saying is, oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't mean to fail that class. I really didn't. I guess I shouldn't have spent all night playing Fortnite every day. I promise that I will always try my hardest from now on. Ugh, that type of stuff really does no good for your show. Have faith that the kids watching your show are smart enough to understand the message you're trying to tell them. Otherwise, it just feels like you're wasting your time.
Mom! Can
ไม่ได้แต่ถ้าจะซักผ้าเราก็ได้เลย
Ugh. Never mind.
The family she ends up befriending in the show are actually a very wholesome bunch. You have Sprig, who is the energetic and fun-loving kid, his little sister Pauly, who is, well, a tadpole with a fiery attitude, and last but not least is good old Hot Pop. He's the glue that holds them all together, as he's that old-fashioned grandpa who's always looking out for everybody. They live in this small village with a whole bunch of kooky characters that really bring this world to life.
Nice swing!
I was on varsity.
I have no idea what that means. Sprint against the world!
Disgusting.
Speaking of the world, let's talk about the animation in the show, because it honestly is one of the best looking things on television. It was actually the main thing that got me interested in the show, and it's like they took the style of Gravity Falls and cranked it to 11. The backgrounds in the show are consistently gorgeous. The look and feel of them showcase just how different this world is from our own. There's a whole slew of creatures around every corner, and vast lands that have yet to be explored.
I was blinking, wasn't I?
By far the most interesting thing about the plot is that Anne wasn't the only one transported here. Two of her friends were with her as well when they all got transported into the world. Only difference is they're in different locations, Anne having the best possible outcome as she ends up in the happy town of frogs, while Sasha on the other hand ended up with some bumbling toads. They reveal this plot thread early on, which kinda ends up faulting the show's pacing, because it leaves you expecting them to meet up within the first half of the show, but unfortunately that doesn't end up happening until the very end. Now, the pacing of the show isn't necessarily bad, it just felt bad because of that expectation, which for the most part is on me. I shouldn't have really felt that way, especially from a show that's not trying to have an overarching plot, but at the same time you shouldn't really tease a plot thread so early on and expect the viewer to want to wait that long. It just kind of feels unreasonable. Plot aside, let's start talking about the characters. Anne is great for the most part, it's just for someone who's been transported to another world with no hope of coming back, she's way too upbeat and happy all the time. Like, I get that she's having fun and enjoying herself, but at one point they reveal that she's been there for over a month, and I just feel like she would be more eager to get home, you know? No matter how much fun I would be having, there's gonna be a point where I'm gonna want to go home. Now, to give the show credit, they do slightly touch on it in the first 2 episodes, but I feel like it would have been much better if there was 1 or 2 more episodes that really emphasized how homesick she actually is. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of the gang. So Sprig is pretty great. Actually, I'd argue he's my favorite of the bunch. He has this cute relationship with this girl in the village, and I kind of wish they did more with them. I feel like her, along with a few others, could have easily been main characters in the show. It's like I see them in one episode and go, okay, that was a pretty great episode. I like these two. I hope to see them do some more stuff in the coming episodes. Just to never see them until the last few episodes where everyone's involved. I just feel like there were characters that deserved way more screen time than the show gives them credit for. But honestly, that's more of a personal issue. I get that most people wouldn't have that problem. I just hope the creators realize that not every single episode has to contain the main 4 characters. It's okay to have an episode with only 2 or 3 characters and kind of focus on just those 2 without having to bring everybody on board. It's very much key to understand where the strengths of your characters lie and the weaknesses. Sometimes you gotta have an episode dedicated to one character, even if that character isn't necessarily the title character. And if I'm being honest, most of the time when shows deviate from their main character and take a whole episode to focus on a side character, that episode ends up being one of the best episodes of a season. I won't knock the show for this, but you could tell there were a lot of episodes where they forcibly had everyone in it, and it just didn't need to be like that. Just something to think about. Now, Hop Hop actually surprised me, as I thought he would be the most boring character, since you know he's just playing the role of wise old man. But that's not the case. He's just as naive as the kids are at times. Seeing him bond with his family and how great of a person he is to the entire town is really heartwarming. He definitely does give off those Grunkle Stan vibes, and that could be a good or bad thing depending on the person, but I kind of like this interpretation of the old and wise mentor type character. There's something about the way he speaks and talks to the kids that just kind of feels genuine, and it's hard not to like it. The one character I've yet to really talk about is Pauly, as honestly she doesn't really have anything to do in the show. Like, she's definitely the gag character, but I can't without a doubt say that she is a character, if that makes any sense. She's very much written within the backgrounds of episodes, like she's always doing something, just it's never really important to the plot, and whenever it is, it's something that isn't really integral to her as a character. Like there's one episode where we do kind of get to see her and Anne do stuff together, as Anne's trying to get her to have this girls time thing because she hangs around with two guys all day and she's trying to show her how to be womanly, but that episode doesn't really show you anything that you didn't already know. Like we all know that she's not into quote unquote girly stuff, but the message of the episode is for her to be herself and not worry about what she should be doing versus what she wants to do. And since that's the message of that episode, she doesn't really go through a change in the episode. She kind of just gives up on doing all the girly stuff Anne was trying to put her through. And that's why I say she's more of a gag character and not a character. Like there just isn't enough stuff to really establish what she is as a person or anything like that. And not to get too deep on this sort of thing, it's just if you're a one-note character, I don't really consider you a character. You're just a person that is here to do one thing, and that is it. I just felt like out of all the main characters in the show, she definitely gets the short end of the stick. And honestly, you could argue that she's really not a main character. She's just that person that's always there because, well, she's a part of the family and it wouldn't make sense if she wasn't there, so she's there. What else is there to say?
Now, I'm right here if you need me.
Got it! 3, 2, 1.
There are a lot of side characters that you meet in the village, and they are entertaining for the most part, all except for the mayor in my opinion. I really didn't like this guy, as he was constantly wronging the people, and there's even an episode where they expose the things he's been doing, and yet they still keep him around as the mayor in the next episode. I really didn't like this choice, as there's even an episode where Hop Pop is given the opportunity to be mayor, which actually kind of sucks because he would make a great mayor. And there's a few episodes like this that kind of leave me puzzled as to why certain decisions were made. There's this one episode where they find this secret underground dungeon in their house, and not one of them finds it weird. You'd think that they would question Hop Pop about it since, you know, it is his house. What makes it even more weird is that the episode prior ended with a little cliffhanger where Hop Pop is literally on his Grunkle Stan secrecy. I mean, it made it seem like, oh, this is supposed to lead into this episode because they actually find some of his secret stuff. But he doesn't know anything about this underground stuff, or at least he's covering it up very well. It's just unclear what the motive of having these things happen is. Was it supposed to be shown as a secret so that way we can find something out? But then again, nothing is really found out, and neither does Hop Hop or the kids mention it in any future episodes, so I guess we're just supposed to forget that even happened. I mean, it's one thing to have them explore this secret dungeon type deal in some other place, but for it to be underneath the house, that's very suspicious, and you should honestly be delving more into that, or at least explaining a little bit of why that's there. And that's where most of the problems with this show lie. I don't know if they did this on purpose or what, but it doesn't feel intentional. There's just a lot of little things like that that feel very off, and there are just episodes where the plot feels very natural and that things are happening in a very realistic way, and then there are other episodes where it's a little odd and not well thought out. It feels like things are just happening just to happen. Now let me make one thing clear. I'm not bashing on the show because I think it's bad or anything. There's just a few episodes that I feel like are problems, and keep in mind this is maybe 4 episodes out of the 40 11-minute long episodes. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I know I'm kind of making it sound like it is one, but these are just things that could be easily rectified that I feel like are worth noting. Hopefully they can fix these flaws in season 2, and honestly I believe they can. There really isn't nothing super detrimental to the show. There's just a few episodes that kind of felt weird, and even the issue with the life lesson thing, that can easily be rectified. Whenever your show has problems with writing specifically, it can always get better. If the animation is there and the characters are there, all you have to do is make better stories. Make the characters do more fun and interesting things. Add new character dynamics to spice things up. In a situation like that, there's so many things you could do to make a show go from being good to great. And honestly, I can't imagine there being any more life lessons for Anne to learn. So they'll hopefully delve into some more interesting plot lines in season 2. Based off their history with Gravity Falls and Star Versus, I think it's safe to say they will. Season 2 has already been greenlit, and it seems like Disney is really hitting hard with their new shows. I'm excited to see where things go from here. It's just, I wish they were a little quicker at getting to the point.
Wow.
And even though I'm far, I can feel a certain glow. Maybe I'm just crazy. There's no need to roam with